Today, we're diving into something that's hidden in plain sight, the invisible battles that shape the lives of women every single day. We're going to uncover 5 different fronts where these fights for equality are happening, often far from the headlines, deep in the shadows of our systems.
So let's start with a really big question, one that frames everything we're about to talk about. What if the most dangerous crises for women aren't the ones we see on the news, but the ones that are systematically overlooked? In our laws, in our doctors' offices, and even in the very code that runs our world.
Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. We've broken it down into 5 key areas. We'll kick things off with what we're calling the health blind spot, then move to the invisible farmer, and then the growing digital threat. After that, we'll get into the dignity of age and wrap up with the price of conflict. Let's jump in.
So, first up, the health blind spot. India has made these incredible strides in protecting women during childbirth, and that is fantastic news. But what happens after those childbearing years are over? It turns out there's a huge chunk of a woman's life that our medical systems just seem to forget. First, let's give credit where it's due, because this is a massive success story. India has managed to cut its maternal mortality ratio by a staggering amount, down to 80 deaths per 100,000 births. That is a monumental public health achievement. It really proves that when we focus on a problem, we can make a real difference. But the question is, why does the focus seem to stop there?
And this slide, this really lays out the core issue perfectly. For decades, right, the main focus has been on reproductive health. But what about the entire rest of a woman's life? As women hit midlife and beyond, they face a whole new set of health challenges. Yet there's this huge gap in structured preventative care for things like heart disease or cancer.
And a big reason for this gap is what's called the male default, and it's basically hardwired into everything. So think about a heart attack. We all picture the classic clutching the chest symptom, but for a woman, it might show up as fatigue or nausea. And because the default is male, her life could literally be on the line, and it gets missed. And this isn't just medicine. It's in the design of everything from car crash test dummies to the chairs we sit in at the office. All of it is often built for a male body.
All right, so this pattern of being overlooked, it doesn't stop at the doctor's office, not even close. Let's head out to the fields, where millions of women are the true backbone of our agriculture. They're the ones cultivating the land and feeding the nation, but in the eyes of the system, they might as well be ghosts.
So here's what's happening. As more and more men leave villages for jobs in the city, women are the ones stepping up. They're taking over the farming, managing the land. In effect, they're becoming the primary force in Indian agriculture.
But this creates this just devastating chain of exclusion. And it all starts with a simple piece of paper, a land title. Because of social norms, that land is almost never in a woman's name. And without that title, well, she's not officially a farmer. And if she's not a farmer, she's cut off from everything. Bank loans, crop insurance, government support, you name it.
And the irony here, it's just heartbreaking. The very women who are growing our food are often the ones going hungry. You see these persistently high rates of anemia among women in rural areas. And that's not just a health statistic. It's a silent crisis that weakens entire families and locks them in a cycle of poverty and poor health for generations.
Now, as if being invisible in the physical world wasn't enough, technology is creating brand new, insidious ways for women to be harmed. So let's pivot to the digital frontier, because a new kind of threat is emerging that's both deeply personal and alarmingly easy to miss.
So what's a key weapon in this new digital fight? The deepfake. This is AI-generated content that is so unbelievably realistic, it can make it look like someone said or did something they absolutely never did. And for women, this technology is being weaponized to create humiliating, non-consensual material, a profound violation that is just incredibly difficult to stop. And that begs the question, right? Who is building this stuff? Well, this chart tells you a huge part of the story. Only 22% of AI professionals are women. That means the tools that are literally reshaping our world are being built with a massive blind spot, without the perspectives of the very people who are most likely to be harmed by their misuse.
So what can we actually do about this? Well, experts point to a 3-pronged approach. First, we need much stronger laws to get this harmful content taken down and fast. Second, and this is critical, we have to get more women in the room actually building these AI tools. And finally, this has to start early. We need to be teaching digital safety and consent from elementary school on up.
All right, from the future of AI, let's turn to something deeply personal, a stage of life that is so often overlooked: aging. For millions of women, this is a silent crisis that's unfolding right now, behind closed doors.
And to really get this, let's talk about a woman named Gauri. She watched her own mother grow old with almost zero support from the state. And one day it hit her with this terrifying clarity. That could be her future. And right then and there, she decided she was done accepting that quietly.
And Gowrie's fear? It's not just her story. It's the future for millions. Just look at these numbers. India's population is aging incredibly fast, way faster than our public policies are keeping up. By 2040, we're talking about a staggering 250 million people over 60. And here is the absolute core of the problem. Our systems tend to see the elderly as just one big, uniform group. But the reality of an aging woman is fundamentally different. They often live longer than their partners, they have fewer savings, and they rarely own property. They have a whole set of unique needs, but they are a category our systems are simply not built to see.
Okay, for our final chapter, we're zooming out, way out to the global stage. Because when peace and stability break down, it's women and girls who become disproportionately and often invisibly vulnerable.
Just take a second and let this number sink in. 676 million. That is how many women and girls are living near a deadly conflict zone right now. The daily risks they face, from violence to starvation, are at the highest point we have seen in decades.
And what's so frustrating is that over 20 years ago, the UN made a big promise to protect and include women in these conflict zones. But the reality today? It's a different story. The promise was to include women in peace talks. The reality is, 9 out of 10 of those talks have no women at the table. The promise was to protect them. The reality is that sexual violence in conflict has skyrocketed. It's not just a gap, it's a chasm.
And here's the thing, excluding women isn't just unfair, it's actually bad strategy. The data on this is crystal clear. When women are meaningfully involved in peace negotiations, the agreements are far more likely to last. Including women isn't just the right thing to do, it is the smart thing to do. It leads to a more lasting peace for everyone.
So, from a doctor's office in India to a farm in the countryside, from a line of code to a peace negotiation halfway around the world, we've seen the exact same thread running through all of it: invisibility. These crises are allowed to fester and grow in the shadows because the women at their center aren't truly seen by the very systems that are supposed to protect and serve all of us. Which leaves us with one final urgent question. What will it finally take for us to see?